Hello, welcome to Keeping Up with the Thrones on Full Circle Network. I am your host, Ileana Meléndez, and today our beloved editor-in-chief could not make it because his laptop, much like the series finale of Game of Thrones, died. So I have a fellow Game of Thrones comrade with me tonight and a special guest. Please give it up for Joseph Kinney.
What's up? What's good? What's poppin'?
We're gonna talk.
Very honored to join y'all, you know.
Oh, thank you. Well, welcome to this little slice of whatever this is. So we're gonna. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've been on. This is your first time on, and I'm just gonna kind of explain to the audience right now what has happened. I'm in college and I was in finals, so that's what happened. Yep, that's it. And so basically the last 3 episodes 4, 5, and 6, post Battle of Winterfell, we kind of missed. So we're going to briefly recap that, like a little capsule, and really dissect the series finale that everyone's been talking about. Every single dude bro you can imagine has made a slideshow on YouTube. That's not going to be this because I don't have the time or the energy to make a slideshow. I asked my brother to make a cute little animation, call back to that John Cena animation from another broadcast episode. All right, let's dive into it. Yeah, it's a thing. I recommend you listen to the other shows. They are something. They're content.
Amazing. Well, I know what I'm going to do this summer. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So, let's get into the nitty gritty of this.
Yeah. Episode 4, The Last of the Starks, more or less, from what I can remember, literally just picks up after the Battle of Winterfell. Like nothing kind of really happened, and they're like, "All right, let's just go get Cersei," and apparently everyone loses their logic because Dany almost lost Drogon to this arrow, crossbow, dragon killing thing that Euron has last season.
She couldn't see. She couldn't. Yeah. She kind of forgot that she could look down at 3,000 feet in the air.
Apparently so. Like, listen, I'm a blind bitch too, but you got a dragon. That's got to count for something.
And you could, you could argue about like the little island rock thing formation, but like, bro. 3,000 feet up in the air. How could she just
forget that army was there, though?
Right? Like, and just digging Dusty back at it again.
Yep. I'm glad you used that. We're getting right into it. So yeah, that's basically the episode. Was that the episode where also like Missandei died and all that?
Yeah, that's where Missandei got a mismatch with the Siri voice activated. What was the whole thing
with her saying Dracarys as her last words? And like Drogon's just there like, what now?
At this moment, are you sure?
Because as soon as she said Dracarys, I'm like, oh shit, it's gonna go down. It did not. You know what went down? Her head.
Nothing goes down. I feel like that's the summary for this entire season. You think something's gonna go down, and then why?
That's what really bewilders me, because I feel like, despite the bumps and lumps, episodes 1 through 3 were a relatively good build-up. Like, they were kind of build-up episodes, but you can notice, like, right after the Night King was killed, that they just remembered, oh, crap, we only have 3 episodes left.
Yeah,
and they were like an hour long. They weren't even that long episodes.
Right? I feel like one of the things that made those first 3 episodes good was the fact that, like, they really didn't have to come up with anything too creative. It was just their same zingy, dramatic, charged kind of dialogue that they've been known for these past few seasons. Like, for as much as you can say that kind of, like, the dialogue can be a little bit scripted at times, their dialogue and their like the actor's delivery is always amazing. So I feel like that's one of the things that carried the season on. Like, the actors themselves were one of the saving graces. And that's just something that carries out. Yeah, that just carries throughout the entirety of the episodes 1 through 3 and everything else after that, even down to the finale. The acting never faltered. And I feel like that was not only something like a purposeful point from the actors themselves of wanting to send this show off, but also trying to like make up for, the rushed and sort of non-cohesive sequence of events that Dick and Dusty set off in the Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and you can tell that they're really trying to save the script that they were handed, and they're like, well, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it for the character, because if they're gonna do my character dirty, I'm not gonna do it, you know?
Exactly.
They stayed true to their talents and to their dedication, because, you know, the majority of those actors have been there for, 10 years now?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Like, Emilia Clarke grew up on this show. Sophie Turner grew up on this show.
Maisie Williams grew up on the show too.
Maisie Williams,
she was a little tyke
up
when she started that show.
Like, all the Stark children grew up here.
Yeah, and
they've
I
really
feel like
evolved.
the biggest example of that is Emilia Clarke, like you said, of trying, like, you did my character dirty, but I'm not gonna like take that into the performance. That was Emilia, because her last performance was simply amazing.
It really was. Like, I don't care. Like, the narrative did her dirty, but you know what? She was a menace.
Yeah, we can say what we can say about the writing, but every time Daenerys came on the camera, I paid attention. That was just her magnetic performance. But like, let's start into where exactly this starts going downhill. So like we said, episode 1 through 3, pretty good, pretty fine. The dialogue worked.
It's
the
like
tension
classic
of the relationship.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, classic Game of Thrones. What they're known for. It was spicy. There was
a little sriracha on that.
Little sriracha on there. 4 through 5 to 6 though. 4 through 6. Let's be real here. Just 4 through 6.
Specifically, 4 and 5 is what really, really just drives the nail into the coffin in the 6th episode.
4
had so little time and nothing happened.
4 is the long night, right? If I remember correctly. Or is that?
It's the last of the Starks.
The last of the Starks.
Episode 4 is where, like, you know, Daenerys just charges in with basically no plan, gets all of her Unsullied destroyed, like, just wrecked. Missandei gets kidnapped and then beheaded in the same episode.
Yeah.
Which is something that could have been dragged on normally in a season.
Yeah, the one that I was thinking of was the one before that, because that was
Battle of Winterfell. That was episode 3. That's where the Night King died, with just no repercussions afterwards. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly where I was going to. You know what really imagines my dragons? The fact that we have a lot of episodes, okay? We've got like 60 episodes, a couple of seasons, just a few seasons, you know, something humble of the Night King being something important. Like, we got this, because he's not a run-of-your-mill necromancer either. He's a lich. We got a lich person here who can control the weather. He's got a zombie dragon. He's got armies, you know. He's a really big, tough customer.
Yeah.
And not only he's a tough customer, he's an interesting character because his purpose has been shrouded in mystery and littered with symbolism throughout the entirety of
since episode 1.
Yeah, throughout the entirety of the series.
Scene is White Walkers, dude. Like,
exactly.
The whole, like, you get into this, and you know, anyone who is seeing, because I know like a lot of people are actually gonna officially binge the whole series now that it's over. And when you get into it the first time, a lot of people don't, I mean, spoilers are all around anyway, but a lot of people don't immediately expect, oh, this is a zombie show?
Yeah, exactly. No, but you don't expect this to be a medieval zombie show. And another thing is that thematically, down to its very core, Game of Thrones tries its best to not, I wouldn't say subvert, because that word feels dirty to me, considering the new trend of endings that is running through media nowadays. So I don't want to use the word subvert. I want to kind of use the word transform or switch, or maybe like spice up, because spicy is always a wonderful word to use. Yeah, like shift the narrative, or shift the tone for fantasy drama. And for fantasy series, you know, this isn't like the big adventure Lord of the Rings style fantasy.
Drama.
Exactly. It's a medieval
West
fantasy
Wing
political.
Medieval.
Exactly. We got parties here. We got political parties. We got stakes. We got ideologies. We got commentary, like actual commentary of different abuses and forms of power. Like, it's a whole thing.
And that was George R.R. Martin's work.
Exactly, that's George R.R. Martin's work, which makes the ending that they predicted make a lot more sense when you really look at it. Which is, I feel like that's something that I something that I seriously need to drive a point here is because I've seen a lot of people on the internet and social media and whatnot go around like, oh, if you didn't like this ending, then like deal with it, cause this isn't Disney, sweetie, and like bad things happen to good people, right? Like I want to drive home the point that it's not the fact that the ending was sad or that the ending was grim dark, although I do also have to say that a grim dark ending does not make for good media just because it's grim dark. There needs to be good writing behind it. But regardless, what made this ending unsatisfactory was the fact that it was so rushed.
It really was.
We really left off season 7, was it? I'm horrible with numbers, so please correct me.
That's okay.
The past season, I'll just say it that way.
Yeah, the season 7, yeah.
We left off the past season with Dany more or less still being a heroine here.
Yeah, like a lot of people were saying, oh, the signs were all there, the foreshadowing was all there of Dany going bad. I'm like, okay, I guess, but nowhere near as strong as the foreshadowing with Cersei's character. Like a huge theory for the past 3 years is that Cersei was going to become a Mad Queen, and one of the characters aside from Dany that was done most dirty was Jaime Lannister.
Oh yeah, dead.
Because my thought was, and a lot of people thought, well, this is the ultimate ending for his arc, even if he dies doing it, because he's the Kingslayer, from day one, and he's in love with his twin sister. But this whole thing of all these years of fighting for the innocent and actually, trying to become a better person and realizing, you know what? Screwing your twin sister is actually gross, and I've hurt so many people for it. So he was eventually gonna become a Queenslayer.
Exactly, he was gonna become a Queenslayer, and all the signs pointed to it, especially with the foil that he had of Brienne, because here you have someone who your first inclination is this guy's evil, but when you really understand is that he is one of the most loyal ride or die honorable people out there. He does
to a fault.
To a fault, exactly. He does care about the innocent. He does care about others, and he will do literally anything, even if it is bad for him or has horrible consequences for him, to defend the people that he loves. I mean, pushing out a kid out of a window. Hello. Versus a foil of Brienne, who is honorable to a fault as well, who will live and die to prove a point that not only can she pursue her career and pursue her ambitions of becoming a knight, she can be as honorable as the best of them and actually make a name for herself among them. She can set a golden example.
Those are the only, things I can give Dick and Dusty this season. That at the very least in the first 3 episodes, especially in Battle of Winterfell, I liked how they were just kind of very nicely kind of tucking in and enveloping these characters' endings. Especially in that, I call it, what was it that I called it? I think I call it the Breakfast Club scene.
Yeah, the Breakfast Club scene.
where they're all drinking and, Brienne gets knighted by Jaime, which I thought was completely appropriate because these guys have been through so much.
That scene has to be
good.
One of the most, I think, thematically satisfying ones, because everything from start to finish is so beautiful. The camaraderie, the camaraderie. Thank you. The camaraderie, the way that they speak, the relationships that you see and feel that have been forged over years of fighting and bloodshed and anguish and everything.
They have this one moment of peace before the storm.
Exactly, that one moment of peace before the storm where she gets knighted and Podrick's song that sends them off into the night. That's absolutely beautiful. Jenny of the Old Stones,
and dark
amazing.
And full of terrors.
Exactly.
We didn't even get that in that episode.
It's supposed to be foreboding. It's supposed to be wow, this might be the last moment that we see these people alive again.
They all survived.
Yeah, there was no stakes. There was as entertaining as the zombie apocalypse episode was, because that's basically what it was to me. Yeah. There were no stakes.
They really weren't, and that's kind of what kind of had everyone is always, when you watch Game of Thrones, you're kind of on the edge of your seat because it's not normally. I mean, it depends on like the episode, but usually with like the battles and things, there's usually
Yeah,
stakes,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like, it's not a shock value just for the sake of being shocking. Russo brothers. So it's usually shock value that was built up with the narrative, and that's
Yeah.
good writing.
Yeah,
Here's
yeah.
where bad writing comes in. Fan service, protecting your, you know, fan favorite characters just for the sake of it. Dude.
I
full
honestly
on expected Brienne to die. I expected a lot more people to die. The only people that died were just like kind of
side
throwaway
characters. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it was just, I don't know. And then I thought, oh, they're saving up the big deaths for the later episodes.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Nope.
No bueno.
I think that like that's one of the things that just peeves me the most is the fact that like that episode, the moment that you if you really take a moment to like step away from the awe of, oh my god, the zombies are coming to kill the North.
Yeah.
If you really take a moment to step away from that sense of urgency they try to thrust into you from the first episode, so that you can kind of like gloss over the details, and you listen to the plan, it's so you're just left here like, okay, and because it's like, okay, so
we're gonna use the cripple as bait.
We're gonna set fire to the trench and we're gonna hold there, right? Okay, right. Yeah, I like this. And then we're gonna put the boy in the wheelchair, yes, the Dickless, yeah, him, we're gonna put him in the wirewood tree, which, I mean, fair enough. I think it's wirewood, weirwood, I don't know.
It's weirwood.
It's weird. It's a weird thing.
It's a weird wood.
It's weirwood. I probably it's weirwood. I'm just bad at the pronunciations. Which is that was actually kind of sound, because if we look back at his powers, he's supposed to be able to do a lot of funky stuff with weirwood trees. He's supposed to teleport with weirwood trees. He's supposed to like do a lot.
What I was reminded, I saw. Sorry to interrupt you, but like, aren't weirwood trees like the source of all magic in the world?
Pretty much, yeah.
So like, if you destroy the tree, you destroy all magic. Jon Snow dies. The Night King dies. I don't know if the dragons are connected to magic, but like
the dragons
would die. Like all magic would be eliminated.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, it's either that they're connected or the dragons are their own separate entities. Because I remember that they coincided the rise of dragons with the age of magic. So
yeah, that's true. Because as soon as Dany brought the dragons back, like, she found out that she's impervious to fire, which came in useless this season again.
Absolutely useless,
she could have definitely, she's impervious to fire as well as the Night King. So she probably should have been the one to kind of, like, set everything ablaze, go into the fire, and, like, within the weirwood tree and kill the Night King. Because that's how he was created.
Yeah, and like, let's follow this line of logic. We put Bran with a weirwood tree, and like, okay, fine, he has powers there. He can do something. We don't see that he ever does anything with it, but sure, that's the implication.
He goes off to like look through ravens, I guess.
He goes off to like voyeur how Jon gets wrecked by the Night King. Basically, that's all he does. He's just like, oh, I wonder how he's doing.
Absolutely useless.
And then he's like, oh, yep, that's an ass whooping. And then he's just like, I'm just gonna wait here.
And Bran literally pulled an Anna. Whoop.
Anna, whoop. And you could give me the but he saw it, so he was like, chill, bro. And I'm just like, well, okay, I guess if you want to lay out on that excuse, still not creative. Still, it doesn't make up for the fact that I just watched a boy sit there for like 15 minutes while Theon Greyjoy kicked straight ass to the goddamn death. Okay,
I think Theon Greyjoy in this season was one of the few characters that had like completed their arc, and I liked his. It was satisfying, and moving on from Battle of Winterfell, because that kind of just built up. That's kind of where the whole build up to where the narrative just goes to crap.
It's like it's like a roller coaster on Six Flags. You go really, 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 really high up, and then you see a big old drop, and it's just downhill from there. It's just
goodbye.
The only difference is that instead of like going back up again, Game of Thrones just went off the rails and
straight
crashed.
Down the hill.
Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah.
So episode 4 was that. It ended with Dany just kind of being really angry, which I get. and she controlled her anger there because she could have just, you know, wrecked them all right there when Missandei was beheaded, but she just, as a queen, as a leader, was trying to keep her composure, but she was furious, and I'm like, oh, she's going to F all y'all up.
Also, can we just talk about the inconsistency of how strong those dragons are?
Right?
Like,
because sometimes they're like, you know, invincible, and then other times they're like, all right,
yeah, it's
let's
like
just
they
throw
take
a
off their
stick
plot
at 'em.
armor, and it's like they take off their plot armor. Like I was talking with this with my brother the other day, and
they're all
we
Rickon.
roasted.
They don't know how to zigzag.
Yeah, we were roasting how some of these things happen because like if he described to me like how he perceived I think it's the scene where Viserion just gets fucking gets friggin' just yoinked out of the sky. Just straight up yoinked out of the sky, just stabbed, right? And the way that he described it to me, it was just like the Night King literally just like, oh, you see that? You see that? I was captain of the high school javelin team, bro.
Oh my lord.
I was the captain. Hold my beer. Give me that beer. How much you bet? How much you bet? I'm not even gonna look. How much you bet? $20? $30? Okay. He just yeeted the lance without even looking.
It's just like a bunch of like jocks.
Frat boys. It's a bunch of frat boys. They're just like, oh, no. And he's like, that's right. Give me my $20 and go pick that mess up. She just straight up. That's how he described it to me, and I can imagine it. I can see it because it's like one moment these dragons can devastate an entire army. Slavers Bay, who? King's Landing,
right?
who?
Everyone just
God,
forgot
who?
Everyone just forgot the whole series,
right?
But this woman wrecked.
But one stick
conquered so many places. But
one pointy stick thrown at a high velocity out of nowhere will take down a big ass wyvern dragon thing. Just throw down. Just
like. I
don't get it.
We want to show that not even the dragons are safe and invincible. That's fine.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. That's what I expect. But like,
wow.
Yeah, but if you're gonna make them super strong at one point, and then like, for example, I don't mind that Rhaegal died. I'm fine with Rhaegal dying.
Yeah,
that's not the issue. But show me Viserion ripping his throat out. Yeah, show me Viserion ripping his throat out. Show me Viserion melting Rhaegal down. Like, show me an epic dragon fight. Show me something, two behemoths duking it out. And
you know what I thought of, and I saw one of the Dupros mention and be like, you know what? You know why they started killing off dragons? It's just all these producers trying to cut the budget. Like, that CGI was just too damn expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we wanted dragon on dragon. And they were like, you're gonna get
dragon on spear.
You're gonna get one. And that's my final offer.
Like, I honestly, as beautiful as the cinematography was, showing the dragons up in the air and the snowstorm, you could have taken out all of that unnecessary fluff, and you could have just given me Rhaegal and Viserion throwing hands, and I would have liked it. Okay? Throwing wings, yeah, just throwing, just duking it out, okay? I want to see Rhaegal
that's the thing.
grab Viserion and square up, okay?
After George R.R. Martin, after they, basically D&D, Dick and Dusty, ran out of material, they just depended so much on the action, on, the dude bro fantasy action, which, okay, that's fine, that's a visual experience, but that's not what Game of Thrones is about.
And I get it from, that's another thing, that's, I feel like, another thing that sort of, set this thing up to I guess not fail. I didn't want to be that bad because it still has 9.4, but it's not 9.5, so
it's not 9.5.
You know how you would come home to your super strict mother or father and be like, "Hey mom, I got a B of 89." And they're like, "Yeah, well that's not an A of 99, so too bad." That's how I feel about this. Yeah, that's how I feel about this. This child is giving me a lot of high expectations, and this season was so and so. I'm just I'm disappointed in you. But that's a side note. I totally lost my train of thought.
I feel that took me.
That took me. Yeah,
that
took me on a thing.
That took you back.
Yeah, that really did. Getting out of the feelings though. What one of the things that imagines my dragons about this entire situation, right?
Right.
So you could tell that this was sort of set up to fail because of the fact that if they already started killing dragons to cut off the budget, and you know that this is a show that not only requires a lot of detail, it requires a lot of time and a lot of energy. You've clearly seen the show going on for 10 years. And you know that with 10 years, you still have a lot to tell.
Yeah.
You have to make a decision here.
Mm-hmm.
You could either do what they did, I guess, and just throw it off, rush it. I don't know, just try to finish with the project so you can move on to something else, which from an economic standpoint, I can kind of get. And that's why this is to be expected, even though they could have done a bit of a better job with those 6 episodes or just given us a full 10 and then killed it, you know? Side A, side B.
Yeah.
But it was either invest more money into a couple of more seasons, like George R. R. Martin had mentioned that he was kind of disappointed because this could go on. Like if it were up to him, he feels that this could go on for a couple more seasons because there's still a lot more to tell.
Because each season is like people like forget each season is really short. It's just 10 episodes.
Exactly, and like this is the thing. Like if we had to deal with what was it 3 seasons of Joffrey, basically more.
No. 4. Yeah, he died
4
in season
seasons,
4.
4 seasons of Joffrey, and what was it? One of those seasons was Joffrey's reign, and we had to deal with seeing a couple of episodes of Cersei's reign. Like probably a couple of episodes of Cersei's reign. What I feel would have probably set this off better was just give us a season of Daenerys' reign, or the end of Cersei's and the beginning of Daenerys. Because
then you can build her up to be Mad Queen.
Exactly. Because the thing is that
the chance to give her character the chance to just be overwhelmed by power, because yes, she's been a conqueror, yes, she's been the white savior and, you know, breaker of chains and all of that.
But this is a political drama, regardless.
Exactly. Like, she's not used to being a diplomat. She's used to trying to, you know, get the best for everyone as long as she's in charge, obviously, because she doesn't trust anyone else, which I can get, honestly, because everyone has a crappy track record.
Yeah, obviously, if everybody has a crappy track record. If we really look at like the way that this is built up, she's also has the mentality, you know, like every other monarch, that she has to rule through monarchy as well. And we see that like sometimes the monarchy works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's more of a hit or a miss in this sense, because you know, medieval times, whatnot. That's the whole point. But that's what takes us to this. The fact that even though she has the best of intentions, you know, this is literally one of those, the road to heaven is paved, or is it the road to hell is paved with good intentions?
Oh, yeah, yep.
Is that she's wants to liberate the world, but the thirst for power that she has is going to be her downfall. And it's sort of like...
I called that out. Like, as soon as the season started, we were Jackson and I were saying that her hubris will be the end of her. And, you know, I wasn't entirely surprised they were going to go, you know, super Mad Queen with her.
And the thing is, like...
it just sucks. It was just poorly executed.
Exactly. The thing is that they base this ending on the ending that they guessed that would be for the show. Because
from what I've read and from what I've heard, George R. R. Martin already told them the ending. Like, it's supposed to end like that. But these guys had the ending and then just wrote story to get to that ending. Instead of writing story that builds up.
When George R. R. Martin was confronted with it, he said, is the book going to end like the show? And he was just like, yes and no, and yes and no, and yes and no, and yes and no.
It's all about execution.
Yeah, and they also had the same ending was going to go down. They knew that Mad Queen Dany was going to be a thing. They knew like how it was going to go down. So they based their ending on the ending that they had already guessed that George R. R. Martin had confirmed, whatnot. And like you said, it's about execution. It's not also just about that. It's the fact that, like, knowing that type of ending, why would you push for 6 episodes?
Because, I don't know, man. They just wanted to leave. Because they had, you know how now they have the whole, supposedly, I don't know if that's confirmed or not anymore. Check out fullcirclecinema.com for more news on that. They're supposed to have a Star Wars deal to write some Star Wars movies. And I'm like, really? You're gonna abandon this for Star Wars? I'm a huge Star Wars stan, but this is just doing it dirty.
This is just doing it dirty because the thing is that you're abandoning something new with a flagship for something that's been beaten. Like, I love Star Wars as much as the next person, and like,
But Star Wars fatigue is a real thing.
Exactly. Like I'm not saying that this is just probably, considering how horribly they rushed this.
Yeah.
Just an example of, another potential flagship dying. But, with the way that they did Game of Thrones dirty, you gotta kind of take into consideration what kind of maturity these the writers and producers and whatnot have for projects, and how much money can really sway a project's success, because it's really all about the bills.
Exactly. And what's really disheartening is that even a show as iconic and really just record breaking, honestly, over the years since its inception, Game of Thrones is going to go down as one of, the most iconic shows in history, to be honest, until, as soon as the books are finished, which, side note, I think George R.R. Martin was very smart about this, because I kind of figured this out a few years ago, and I'm like, well, of course he's not going to finish the books now, because no one's going to read them, because they're going to be watching the show. So obviously when D&D, Dick and Dusty finished their ending, however it ends, George R.R. Martin can do whatever he wants. He can see the reaction to that ending, and he can tweak whatever he wants. He can be like, you know what, I'm gonna do this properly.
Exactly.
Which he does, because I've read some of his books, like the first Game of Thrones books in the series. It's excellent writing.
Yeah. Rounding back on that point, because I totally went on a tangent and forgot to close that point
go
there. For it. With the ending that they finish and whatever, right? That they know what, with the, the writing that he does, that he takes these things into consideration. He's, George R. R. Martin is, on top of being super researched and super intelligent with the themes that he displays, he also likes to create super weird shit. And if there's any one person that I could 100% see putting, I don't know, unicorns in the Game of Thrones universe and making it not only make sense, but making me hype for it, would be him. Because he's done remarkable things with his story arcs and with all of his plots and whatnot. And
yet they somehow make sense. Like the whole Hodor thing, traveling, messing with Hodor, hold the door. Like no one could think of that. Who? What are you on? I'll have what she's having.
I'll have what she's having, exactly. And yet we never saw any more of that after that. It was just like, okay, we're done. So
yeah, because that's basically like when they ran out of material.
Exactly. They pulled the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It happens. It's
nerd.
Listen, it's literally the same. It's the same symptomology. So sue me.
All right. I'll be sure to put the hashtag in the video, like the tag.
They got ahead of
Alchemist, so we can get the views.
No, literally. It's just literally just the simple thing. They got ahead of the source material, ran out of ideas, and they made some really roundabout decisions. It
felt like fan fiction.
Like fan fiction, exactly. So knowing that ending, give us 10 episodes so that we can really see, because the seeds for Mad Dany were placed. And we see that. I'm not saying that Mad Dany is the issue, because Mad Dany is supposed to be the real problem isn't who's in charge. It's the pursuit for power that leads to those people in charge.
It's the fact that it's only one person in charge.
And look at how this plays into the Targaryens' entire line of thinking, because the Targaryens are considered like one of the most influential rulers in Westeros. They literally took over the Iron Throne at one point, and they have one of the most bloodiest and illustrious reigns in the entire book. It's so important that they even made I think it's an informative history book, I guess, on the history of Westeros regarding the Valyrians and the old Targaryens and whatnot.
Yeah, because there's so much lore.
Exactly.
It's such a rich,
very lore-rich,
universe.
Right? And they have this thing where they say every time a Targaryen is born, the gods the god flips a coin and the world holds its breath, right? And it's playing on that sort of like idea that dictators and other people give themselves, and sort of like this idea that sort of idealizes or really deifies houses and their lineage, and the fact that it's not really about the prophecy of the gods. It's about the fact that the Targaryens, being one of the lead competitors in the Game of Thrones, have been exposed to some of the worst sides of humanity, and that's what leads to them being on one side of the coin toss, depending on how well they can take it. That's why it's always like, for example, Lyanna Stark and, her boo, he was a good Targaryen, right? But what happened? He ended up dying over the love that he had. So regardless, he fell prey to his family's bloodlust. Meanwhile, we have other Targaryens, like the ones that, I forget his name because details.
Viserys?
Viserys. Viserys is one, but also the one that Jaime murdered.
Oh, was it Rhaegar?
I think that was Rhaegar, right?
It was
we'll
one of those.
We'll fact check.
We'll fact check that. We're not.
Yeah, we're not.
Someone fact check that. Someone
can fact check that.
We know. I mean, Jaime, he's the Kingslayer because he did murder
the Mad King, basically. We have Rhaegar, who was super bloody, super, tyrannical, basically, just the biggest fascist, the Mad King. He had a throne with 1,000 swords, which that's another thing. The Iron Throne was disappointing when you really think about how the Iron Throne is displayed in the books, but budget, I understand. It's not...
production design, budget, and this was a very low-budget show to begin with.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It got its budget when it started getting hype and views.
Exactly. That's why we have epic dragons now. So we couldn't have asked for an epic throne in the beginning. So I understand that. But even then they don't play with it that much. He had a throne of 1,000 swords melted down of all of his enemies. That's a sword that's
pretty
literally
metal.
Yeah, that's pretty metal. He has literally a freaking sword throne, which, by the way, if in case you've ever wondered, this is a little metallurgical fact. When swords have been bathed in blood over the years, they will bleed like some of the blood that they absorbed inside.
Stop it!
I'm not joking. Yeah, I'm not dead ass. They do. Like, they do bleed it out.
Cool.
And I think it's through oxidation.
Actually, oh my gosh.
It's metal.
Like seeping through the pores of the metal is just the blood that. Oh my.
Yeah,
God.
the blood of all. So on top of the fact that this.
Fact.
Yeah, that is a fun fact. On top of the fact that this throne is metal as all all crap, they could have done some fun things with it. They could have really sold the point with the whole Mad King, and they show that it's not just the fact that he's deified. It's the fact that this man is insane. Because he has too much centralized power, and the things that he had to do and the humanity he had to sacrifice to get to that, which I feel is like the whole point of this series, is what turned him insane. This is what we're going to see in Dany. This is what we're going to see reflected. Because
no matter how much she insists and that she makes the effort to be the opposite, which is very admirable, it's inevitable.
Exactly, because even everybody who's been with her, even the people who have been and seen Rhaegar's reign, that they were like 20 or 30 when Rhaegar was still, rolling about, haciendo su cosa. He...
a little Spanglish there.
A little Spanglish there. He still, he was pretty bad, and they all go to her like, oh, you're nothing like your father. This is very surprising. What a breath of fresh air. A Targaryen that isn't that shit. Wonderful, right? Right. But they assume that it's because of the Targaryen blood that makes them insane, as people do.
Oh, I like that.
They assume it's because of the Targaryen blood that makes them insane. It's like, oh, you don't have the blood of Rhaegar coursing through you so violently. You have more like your mother's, for example, or whatever conception you want to put in your mind as a politician in that time. Yeah. When in reality, what turns them all insane is that pursuit for power. You're going to see the things that she has to do to move forward and become the leader of the Iron Throne, the one who sits on the Iron Throne, is gonna take a toll on her.
Good exposition. This is all just narrative that we were deprived of, and I'm sure that some that whole plot that you just built up there from one character, way better than Dick and Dusty could ever do. In that one moment, some could argue, oh well, Robert Baratheon never went insane. But Robert Baratheon never anything.
Yeah,
he never did anything. He was never in pursuit of power. He never wanted the throne to begin with. He said Ned Stark should have it.
Robert Baratheon wanted to overthrow a tyrannical government, and he was a reaction to a monarch that was basically slaughtering men upon the millions. He was just a basic reaction of the people and the houses banding together to try and go against what they perceive to be a common evil. That didn't make him a leader, and from the very beginning they show you that Robert Baratheon is a warrior through and through. He wants to go into the arena. He wants to fight. In the books,
he wants to hunt.
Yeah, he wants to hunt, which is how he gets murdered wonderfully. And that's they show you through Robert's character that just because you get the title of king, that doesn't mean that you're born a leader. Jon Snow keeps getting used as the title character to be this is what a leader should aspire to be. This is literally what a leader is, and I get that. I get that, because the thing is that his character was sort of set up to be that. He was deprived of the throne,
He's a good military leader, but he's
exactly,
not a lord or a king.
Exactly, he's not a lord or a king, but the thing is that he can inspire the people. And they use that to sort of, that quality to sort of bounce off how it's also important for a leader to be just and wise and, sensible, but it's also important for them to inspire love and to inspire their people, right?
Which is kind of what Dany would do.
Exactly, so I get why they draw those parallels, but the problem with Dick and Dusty was when they went through with that whole, like, more misogynistic-y, machista sort of style plot, where it's the man that decides where the power goes, and that's why Jon has to do that, versus you lend to your queen something that she already has, because she is very charismatic and she has inspired the people, but that she lacks in Westeros, because she is not an icon of the people. She's
an enemy of the people immediately, and she takes it very personally.
Exactly, and she has Jon, who's a hero of the people in Westeros, by her side to vouch for her.
Yeah, right? And that's why, as gross as it may have been, the most ideal scenario politically was their union. Whether be it in marriage or whatever.
Exactly. What I feel was gross was the fact that, because Jon in this entire situation is getting pegged by Daenerys day and night, because that's just the situation here. Mm-hmm. Like, he is submitted to her 100%.
Yeah, and that's what I hate, because, I don't know, man. I feel like Jon wasn't that submissive. Like, he was just completely a puppy. Like, everyone just lost their marbles. Everyone just got, they lost 50 IQ points. That's part of the bad writing.
Yeah, that's part of the massive bad writing. The thing is that I could see the story being, like, if you wanted to do that story right, I could see you taking your time to sort of, build up the romance. He fell in love with Daenerys, and then he notices that Daenerys is going insane, so taking a page from his father, Ned, instead of going by what would be convenient for him and saving himself from, I don't know, witnessing the person that he loves just go batshit, he remains by her side and tries to deflect enough of that madness and bad vibes off of her in an attempt to sort of, nullify or sort of stall the effects, to then be forced to do what he had to do later on once she goes entirely far gone. Because I understand that the move that he made with Daenerys was to protect his sisters, and I feel like that is totally in line with his character, because he
puts his family first.
Yeah, as much as he is his own person, because he is stubborn, he is independent, he is very much the kind of person that will put his money where his mouth is constantly to prove his worth, because, as a bastard, he was raised to sort of put in more effort than the rest of the people, because he was always surrounded by lords.
Looked down upon. He was always the underdog, even by his own, supposed mother figure. And in turn, Sansa, that's why the scenes with him and Arya were so heart-wrenching, because she was the only one that saw him as a brother,
Arya was a real OG from the very beginning. She got her sword
till the very end.
Yeah, she got her sword from him. Like, that just shows that those two have been linked from the beginning, right?
Yeah, they have a strong, healthy sibling bond, even though
he is
terrified of her, low key, because of her new skill set that was, kind of wasted. High key.
Terrified.
Wasted.
That's one of the things that I will. That's one of the things that I will forever love and hate. The fact that we got to see every character get scared shitless by sweet Arya Stark, my murder baby, but we never got to see Arya's mettle outside of being Arya the zombie slayer.
Yeah, all of a sudden Arya became super OP and invincible when she needed to be, but at the same time,
medieval Buffy is what I'm saying right here.
Yeah, I liked that Beric, excuse me. The guy with the eye patch and Lord of Light, whatever, that he was brought back so many times to die for Arya to live, to be able to complete that. Okay, fine. We got a full circle on that whole Lord of Light being able to bring people back thing. We still don't know why Jon was brought back. Really? Just to kill Daenerys? Really?
I mean, if we're gonna talk about all the things that we don't know about, that they sort of just kind of forgot.
They just kind of forgot. They just smoothed over it with some jiffy.
Yeah, they just moved over it with some bumpy jiffy, let me tell you. There are many plot holes in this.
Some chunky, moldy jiffy.
Night King, what was up with that? Jon being brought back to life, what was up with that?
Jon being a Targaryen.
What was up with that? The most useless fun fact in all of Westeros.
Just to start, like, gossip?
Yeah, just to start bullshit.
Wait. Sansa starting gossip? Really?
That's the other thing. Like, you're talking about the people, the Starks that were raised under the high golden example of Ned frickin' Stark.
Honor.
You're telling me that the man that taught...
What?
Yeah. She taught them honor above all. She swore. Like, I don't understand if she didn't swear, but she swore. And she broke that oath. Like, that's
like,
not...
I understand, because her whole thing was, I mean, she immediately didn't like Dany because, you know, North stubborn. Oh, you know, she's threatened by this pretty blonde chick. Really? Like, if Sansa and Dany were able to have, like, they did have that conversation, but Sansa really just drove home what of the North, because Dany just didn't want to let go and she didn't want to compromise, which is a little bit unlike her. And maybe, you know, some people say, oh, that was foreshadowing for Dany to go mad. Not really. I think it was just lazy writing.
She was bad. She was already, like, not the best at, like, big compromises, but there's... Conceivably, from a strategic point of view, I understand that having control of the North would mean that Dany would have a lot of the resources in Westeros, but considering that she is the queen of all of Essos, and implying that after she conquers Westeros, she can open up trading ports with Essos to get things towards Westeros.
That's my point. If you had Sansa, we almost had Sansa and Dany in charge.
Exactly. That's the thing.
Had that, and that would have been breaking the wheel.
Yeah, Sansa would have been a valuable ally, because if what she really wants to do is break the wheel, what would have happened this season, which is what I guess when they couldn't do with 6 episodes, but with 10, you could probably see happen if they're long enough. You could see them forging this bond and forging this alliance with the hope of creating this new world backed by a benevolent empire. They don't have to
like each other, but they
don't have to like each other.
Allies.
Exactly, and although you can see that they sort of tolerated each other at that point when they were having that conversation until it all went down the drain, like, that just supports my theory that I feel like, given the proper circumstances, they would get along in the beginning. I'm not saying they would get along all through, because Mad Dany is supposed to happen, and Sansa is the unbended. She is going to take, I think, even a stronger position than Ned Stark with her strength, basically, and her force of will.
She's still Tully.
Exactly, because she's still a Tully. So, and both of her houses got desecrated. She's the last remaining union of both, the daughter of Winter and the daughter of the Tullys. She would stand as a monolith next to Daenerys, and they would be able to, like, take Westeros with her as her domicile, with her as, like, her what's her word? Her pillar in the north.
Of course.
Like, she doesn't have to delegate towards Daenerys, but, like, Daenerys goes off to Essos and whatnot, and, you know, Sansa's in the north handling shit.
Exactly.
Because a bitch can't, you know, as much as you want to consider the fact that, yeah, she could probably take both thrones, she has Essos. She either has to give up one or the other. She just came here to be able to,
that's also another thing that bothered me. We just kind of forgot about Essos. We forgot about Dorne. We forgot about, like, all the actual, like,
yeah, because when you put those things into perspective, like,
I don't know, man.
What stays, like, when you put all of that into perspective in season 8, when you look at it strategically, what stays when you really think about it?
The Six Kingdoms. And, like, I think a good point to kind of close on, and as we discuss this, we talked about the endings that should have happened and could have happened, shoulda, coulda, woulda. But the fact is that we had Tyrion, like, that whole ending scene of kind of, you know, a little bit of an endgame, a few weeks later, you know, sort of a deal. Bran, really? Bran Stark?
Yes.
Everyone laughed at Samwell Tarly suggesting, wow, a democracy? Listen, dude.
And the thing is,
of all, like, the things they could have done.
Another thing that was out of character was the fact that Samwell Tarly, I mean, one, never got any consistent character development, because that would have been a perfect moment to show off his character development.
Exactly.
And 2, newly appointed Robert Baratheon's son, bastard son, Gendry, exactly, being able to defend and also help Samwell give his point, because he also seen the point of view of the people to sort of, like, set that seed Yeah, set that seed, because like I don't see them taking on a democracy and during that whole thing, of course. But that entire scene to me felt like
something.
Yeah, that entire scene to me felt sort of like a what is it?
A cop out.
A scene of aside from a cop out. Yeah. Aside from a cop out, in an ideal world, in a well written world with good writing backing it, sort of like an ending scene for the last book of Game of Thrones, when they're trying to decide like what they want to do with the democracy, like this whole spicy ending closing thing where they talk about basically all the events of what unfoiled, analyzing it, seeing the folly of the Game of Thrones and whatnot, like making this whole like a political sort of commentary, not I guess with the purpose of exposing exactly what were the flaws of the wheel that they were doing and what led to basically Daenerys' hubris, however sexy as it may have been.
Of course.
It still led to her downfall.
Which was a little bit predictable, yes. And that's also...
That's okay, that's the thing. That's okay. It's okay that it's predictable, because, they're sending the hints for you to see that. Like, yeah, she's taking a sanguine point of view towards her enemies like she's supposed to because she's a monarch, and that's another thing. If you gave everybody else a good point of view of their reign, we might as well should have had something for Dany, Might as well had a little bit of something for the Night King, because the Night King already had his own fucking kingdom on the side, if we're gonna be fucking honest.
Yeah! Like, the True North, the whole thing with the True North, like, everyone just ignores that, and I'm like, don't forget about Canada. How dare you? First of all,
right?
Second of
all, how dare they?
Let's not forget about Canada, because that's
the weirwood maple syrup is delicious.
Ugh, good lord, that magic syrup.
Magic syrup.
Oh boy, that's a new product. That's what Sansa's resources are going to be. She's going to start like her own syrup company.
I believe it.
I believe it. Okay, so yeah, so where was I?
You were talking about
Dany.
Something. All right.
I don't know. It's getting late, but yeah. Basically, the whole thing of that whole round table scene and choosing Bran Stark.
Yeah.
And just like, of all people, of all things, like, okay, when you analyze it, like, I thought about it afterwards, and I'm like, okay, sure, Tyrion had a point in that Bran was the best choice in theory, because he's like the most neutral person to take the throne.
Yeah,
he comes with his own throne, wheels included.
Wheels included, yeah. He comes with his own throne, and he's his own master of whispers, because he can just into anything.
I didn't get that either, and I'm like, well, okay, so you have the Raven and his whole thing. Like, why do you think I came all this way, homie? What happened to I don't want anymore?
Right. Let's start there.
He just wanted to pull up. He was like, no.
I feel,
that's all you had to say.
I'm okay with Bran being appointed. I'm not okay with Bran pulling up like, shit, bro. This is why I was here and everything. Why you think I got this new fancy seat?
Right? Like, I just, that whole attitude, just, it really,
like,
really,
I can see him being appointed
it's
from,
like sandpaper on my veins. That's how that attitude just really grazed me. I was like, no. I get, the logic behind him being chosen as the king, even though it was rushed and completely out of nowhere.
His
smugness was
just
really
wrinkles
what
my
drove, it really drove it. What did you say? What? Anyways, what really drove it home for me was like, what, are you Joffrey now? Like, what's up?
Exactly.
You entitled son of a gun. Hello. So that whole thing happens. You get, Brienne gets a position at the table, and like, I get Tyrion being the king's hand of the king. I'm
happy that Brienne survived. I hope that Brienne survives, because I feel like we don't I'm not saying ending. Like, como te digo? I'm not saying give me a happy ending, but like, let some people live, goddammit.
Exactly. But the thing is that they let everyone live, and it's like, well, that wasn't that entertaining. Anymore. Yeah. It doesn't matter anymore. So that whole thing, Bran getting chosen out of nowhere, and then Sansa just kind of pulling up and being like, oh, I'll just slide into his DM. So the North is independent. And he was like, sure, sweetie. And I'm like, okay, fine, Scotland. you got your thing. I'm proud of you, sweetie. But this wasn't really
Like,
that.
we were talking about the
entertaining.
implications of this.
So, like, the implications. You were talking about the implications.
Yeah, because my brother and I were talking about the implications because he read all of the books, so he got like a better understanding of Bran's powers, how they work, whatnot, the sort of things that he's supposed to do. The fact that all the Starks are like, that's another thing that they never played on or played with. All the Starks can do the thing with the wolves. I mean, Sansa and Arya can't anymore because Nymeria and Lady are gone, but like all of them are supposed to be able to get into their wolves and do that thing. The implications of Bran being the king is the fact, like, he mentions that they don't have a master of whispers, and like, yeah, that's understandable because he basically is his own master of whispers.
He
like,
really is. He's everything.
The other thing about him being a king is the fact that, like, if you really think about it, he can get into animals. He can, get inside of animals. He can control animals. He can
look through all of space and time.
He can walk through all of space and time. He can see what's going to be, He can
actually time travel because clearly that affects everything he does. Actually, does some way affect the people in the timeline. Because we saw that with Hodor, and we didn't think that was possible. And it's like, oh, okay, so that's a real implication. Okay, cool.
Exactly. So we're talking about someone who, if we're gonna be real talk, he can be Switzerland, and you can be like, he's not gonna use his powers for like any of that. But also, like, the implications of him being able to use his powers to defend the people of Westeros. Like, some army is going to come invade, and then the next day they're getting, I don't know, devoured by wolves or something, for example. Or they get warned from an attack a couple of days before they get an attack. Or he's warned of treason before it even happens. Like, he's basically a king that can't be killed.
Satellite.
Yeah, he's a satellite. He has a read. On wheels, homie. Yeah, he's a satellite on wheels. He has a read on the entire kingdom, which immediately gives them an edge.
An upper hand.
Yeah, you could say an edge in the Game of Thrones, but also like an edge in breaking the wheel and creating this new world. Because of course, if you're gonna break the wheel and pop the thing, on top of dealing with the power vacuum, there's gonna be a lot of people that benefit from that wheel that don't want that wheel to be broken.
Exactly.
So you're still gonna have enemies.
Exactly, and that's where you get another 2 seasons.
Exactly. So, it has implications. Bran being the king has implications and plot implications that are actually super, super interesting to play around with for, like, with his powers and whatnot. And there's a lot of things.
Just ignored. They kind of glossed all over that, and it's just really, as much as we may bash on the season, it's really disheartening and sad because you know, we've been fans for so many years. And to just be let down in this way, and we're not just hating on, because the season had its positives.
Yeah,
it was all bad.
We gotta clarify the fact that the season did have its good positive, even though this has been like an hour of talking about all the faults.
I was satisfied with Jon returning to the real North because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, he's back where he started. That's his character, though. That's like where
he's not back where he started. He's back where he belongs. He always wanted to be in the real North.
Because he always felt like he didn't belong.
Because that's a thing.
Place in Westeros.
Everybody got so caught up in Dany and Jon that they forgot about his first wildling Boo and what that actually meant for his character development. Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed that. I don't really get. I mean, even Jon said it's like, is there still a Night's Watch? Like, bro. You could come up with another excuse to have him go up to the North. Like, you could just be like, oh, Jon, what are you going to do now? So what are you going to do now that you've won the Super Bowl? Well, I'm going to go to the North. Just going to... Pretty much. Gonna go help the wildling people that saved my life and I have led for, a hot minute.
Well, exactly. Like, he's not a king of the people. He's a king of the wildlings, and he leads the wildlings because the wildlings want to. The free people, exactly, because he's a free person. He understands the need for freedom,
and he respects it, and he cares for those people. So I get that.
I like Sansa's ending being the Queen of the North, representing both her parents through her reign. Embracing her Tully side, and
the true leader of the North, the one who's kind of kept it together since everything happened. Which I find really hilarious that all the Starks went all their separate ways, and yet she's the only one that embodies the mantra of the lone wolf dies, the pack survives. I loved because Sansa was like the one who was anti-Stark, like, no, I'm Southern, like I'm a Southern girl from the beginning, and then she just kind of went full circle, because we're branding here, and
Yeah.
was the most, not patriotic, because that's just, I don't like using that word in any way, shape, or form, but she was the one that embraced the North, embraced the Stark name and all the responsibility that entailed. She was the one that really did that, and she, like, even in the first few episodes of the season, she was thinking of the logistics of Winterfell. It's like, well, I only have so much food to feed these people. It's winter, you know, how are you going to feed all your armies? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? What do dragons eat? Oh, whatever they want. Okay, so how do you cook with that, you know? How do you cook with whatever they want?
Exactly.
I need to know. You know, she really did care, and she learned from the best of the best. She learned how to manipulate. She learned how to, you know, what a bad leader looked like, and she learned what a good leader looked like. And she's trying her best, and her best is what her people has really believed in. So I respect that ending. I thought it was good. I really loved. A lot of people were underwhelmed with her crown, and I'm like, it's the North. They're one of the most humble, no BS people.
And that's a callback to Robb. That was the way. That's what Robb's neck thing, I think, or his brace on his torso looked when he was crowned king. So she got her crown in remembrance. Like each piece of her clothing is a piece of her family.
It was very, very, very beautifully detailed.
See, this is the difference. Like on what I love of like the detail for, like, for example, something that's satisfying, like the detail put into her clothes and the symbolism behind that scene of her embracing the North, representing her family through and through, versus like the detail for shock value, which was just purely for shock value, because there's sincerely 0 point to put your entire population in a crypt to hide from a necromancer, which here we are.
I mean, even Peter Dinklage in an interview was saying that. He's like, why?
Because he's smart, but not that smart.
Hide everyone in a crypt.
But I understand now because I didn't understand why they did it, but I understand now why it was, and it was for symbolism, but it was shock symbolism, because it was the old kings of Winterfell destroying their population. Their population got decimated by the old kings of Winterfell that sworn to protect them.
Because like there's tunnels under Winterfell. You could have just gone through.
Yeah. I guess they wanted to be, like, play with how the Night King sort of, like, just brings out the worst in everything, I guess, and just makes you relive your worst nightmares, and it's just pure nightmare fuel and whatnot, you know, going in for that mysterious...
They're trying to make the Night King like a Dementor.
Yeah, trying to make the Night King like a Frosty the Boogeyman. Frosty the Boogeyman, I guess.
Frosty the Boogeyman. That's basically what they made him, yeah. They just made him
because he's
what's it called? The Baba Yaga?
Baba Yaga. They made him the Baba Yaga because it was like
a frozen John Wick.
What was his entire point? What was the whole symbolism behind the little circle of the like?
It was just lost.
If we get into that, it's gonna be a whole nother hour. But like, yeah, you get my point. So
yeah, I get your point.
It's different. Shock symbolism versus good symbolism in the situation. Exactly, because one's backed with narrative, and you know. We get to see why she's doing this based on character development.
But aside from that, I like, you know, the Starks, the pack survived. Because basically whatever was left of the pack survived. And you know what? This is a show, despite, you know, how it went, you know, kind of back and forth between all the families and all the characters. It's a show based on the Starks.
Yeah.
This show was the Starks, and... You know, I don't really like how they just kind of made it so black and white with the whole who's good, who's bad thing at the end. Because
when it was extremely
the show was so complex and morally ambiguous.
Cersei got the biggest.
Made you watch. Cersei was done the dirtiest, honestly.
Because she was the biggest example of that moral gray area where she would do the most dastardly stuff out of loyalty for her family and to secure what she deemed hers, and then she just became a megalomaniacal.
Exactly. Lex Luthor. She was the villain that loved her children above anything and everything. Like, that was really fascinating about her character, because she's a villain, she's crazy, but she's also a mom. Like, you kind of feel for her when she loses all of her children.
Yeah, and then you see her pregnant drinking wine in the next couple of episodes.
And you're like, Alabama?
Alabama, when not only that's not just horrible because of, you know, fetal alcohol syndrome, but that's also horrible because of the fact that the way that they show her her dedication to her children is that she is like the biggest alcoholic, but the one way that Tyrion knows that she's instantly pregnant is because
Is when she doesn't drink wine.
she denies an offered cup of wine. She never denies wine. That's her signature. Yeah. So she denies her favorite thing to ensure that all of her children come out happy and healthy, which is obviously, she's a responsible mother. Yeah, as incesty as they are, we don't need to add further health problems. But, like, it shows her dedication. Because we've seen that in the Lannisters are really selfish. Yeah, and then she becomes Lex Luthor.
Yeah, she really did. And I just don't get that. Arya's ending, a little bittersweet, but...
A little bittersweet. I'm not satisfied with it. But yeah, but
then again, what else? That's the problem. Exactly. It's like, oh, what else could she have done? Because she knew they could have copped out and been like, oh yeah, she just marries Gendry, becomes Lord of the Baratheons, yada yada. And I'm like, God, no. Even though I kind of said that in the beginning, like, well, what if, low key, what if Gendry and Arya get married, but for political reasons to be able to rule, so that nothing goes to crap. That was just an ideal theory. That was just an ideology in the first episode.
Yeah, I could only see that if they give her, because Arya's always been the kind of person that likes to take things and bend them on their head to suit her needs.
Of course.
Because, no to your rules, I guess. Specifically, anything that involves
She's the John Wick of the series.
She's the John Wick of the series, exactly. So I could have seen sort of like Arya and Gendry getting politically married while they're trying to struggle with that budding romance that they had going on, sort of like stunted because they're both stunted about the situation. While she takes, she's
still very young.
Yeah, well, she basically just goes ahead and redefines her role as a lady and goes, well, I'm not going to be a traditional lady, and if you try to make me, I'm going to slit your throat, so how about that?
So that would also be like another way for her to break the wheel of becoming a lady of the house, because she could be a lady and actually like a leader and do something. And
she could be a lady in a command
partner in a commanding position.
Exactly, like in a commanding position.
But yeah, that was never gonna happen after the show.
Be like a stabby mistress of whispers or something, but like since you can change your face and literally slip into anything. But
exactly, but forgot about that. Whatever. We kind of forgot about that. But yeah, aside from that, I thought it was okay to kind of give her that. I mean, I hate to say this, but it's a little bit of a Columbus vibe.
Yeah, to give her the Christopher Columbus vibe, yeah.
Yeah, even though that's not really what she kind of wants to do. She just wants to kind of just go around and see what's up.
This is why I refuse to call them D&D, because there's only one D&D in my life, and they would never do this to me, okay? Like, Dick and Dusty do not deserve. That's because Arya got her best ending and she was a fan favorite, and we can all tell that she survived a lot because of the fact that she's a fan favorite, because fan service.
Exactly. Like, honestly, she was one of the few people that survived the whole King's Landing attack. Really, the whole episode followed her around like it was a found footage film of a war attack, and I'm like, oh, this is actually just heartbreaking and really gory, and the whole war is hell thing. I thought it was great, but and I thought, oh well, we're following Arya around, there's some significance here. Nothing. The whole White Horse, very least, the whole Johnny Cash ending to that episode. Nothing.
Yeah, and at the very least, and the thing is that this sounds really sadistic, but based on the kind of series that this is, at the very least, maim her permanently. God, like, give us something. Give us a physical consequence, because literally she was on the hunt for vengeance, and it would make sense that she gets punished, because the entire theme recurring here, even Lysander Clegane, which...
Exactly.
Even if you want to say that he conquered the mountain, he really didn't. He just copped out and suicide pacted, because suicide's badass.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's what he says, apparently. I don't know.
Apparently so.
Allegedly. But, Arya herself, like... She went on this entire vendetta for vengeance. She was going to King's Landing to kill Cersei when damn well she should not have gone to King's Landing to kill Cersei.
But, a day Arya before... as she pleases.
Yeah, especially, since she kind of forgot that a day before she was going to be under hellfire from a dragon.
Of course.
But on man, it happens. But... like, a common theme in the Game of Thrones is that we see people go after their lust for vengeance and get punished for it, because one of the main things that separates this fantasy genre from others is that it focuses more on the interest of human conflict and human decision versus the whole of an adventure or the whole of a high stakes situation. So that's why we have a lot of personal plots, yada yada, and that's why we see, like, for example, in Sandor Clegane, that his lust for vengeance consumes him, and it doesn't really give him a satisfying end. He sort of
course, because vengeance is not for us to take, in a sense. Like, you know, vengeance gets us nowhere, because it's just a dead end road, and that's what Game of Thrones just kind of has pushed.
Yeah.
And it just...
And she's the only person who falls under that category that gets out of the vengeance story scot-free.
Yeah, because her whole thing, her entire narrative throughout the whole series is, I have a list, I'm gonna kill them. This is my kill list. She's literally Kill Bill.
Yeah, she's literally Kill Bill. And, like, the series, like, with Melisandre, you can say that sort of, like, yeah, she gets this sort of inclination, sort of like a free pass card. Because it's like, you have a purpose that your thirst for vengeance is going to serve the greater good. But it's only because she's going to kill 3 specific people. What was it? You shut brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes. You'll shut them forever. Yeah,
the whole green eyes, still don't know. Like, she got the brown eyes, she got the blue eyes. And the green eyes, I thought, well, Cersei.
Yeah, exactly. Either Cersei or because... This is what we were thinking, because I was speaking with Grace, and we were talking about that prophecy, and we were like, that probably means that she's gonna be the one that kills Daenerys then, because she's gonna see this wild stuff. Like, I don't want her to kill Daenerys because she already has.
Daenerys has blue eyes.
Daenerys does have blue eyes. That's the thing. But, like, what else would there be? It would be Cersei, and Daenerys would kill Cersei. Okay. Right? So who else would be left that has green eyes or light eyes per se? And like, if we're gonna deal with lazy writing, that would be how. If we're gonna deal with lazy writing, the lazy way for me to write it up would just be like, well, I kind of forgot that her eyes are kind of blue, and I would just get her to come to the ears. Or
maybe, like, in a sense, it would be like the reflection of the wildfire in Daenerys' eyes makes them green.
Yeah, or something like that.
That could have been a very convoluted way to do it, and I would not have been mad at it because I made it up.
Yeah, because exactly.
I myself made it up.
But exactly. Yeah. I mean, ideally, what that's supposed to mean is the person who murdered Catelyn, the Night King, and Cersei. Because that was her entire thing.
You know, that was just a logical thought process. But we could go on and on with, you know, the lack of logical thought processes.
I forgot that. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I forgot that Daenerys had blue eyes. Because I keep thinking she's supposed to have purple, but, like, budget.
She is supposed to have purple, but, you know, budget. You know, Emilia Clarke doesn't have purple eyes. She's not Elizabeth Taylor. But, you know, whatever.
That was propaganda.
It really was. But yeah, aside from all that, conclusions. It could have been
amazing,
better.
But it was a dumpster fire.
It was a dumpster fire, but it also could have been much worse.
It's true. It
really could have been a lot worse.
They had their rating, and I was expecting, like, a more modest rating from IMDb, was it? Because IMDb can't finish their ratings until a season, well, at least on the show, until the season is entirely done. So they were comparing it to Breaking Bad, and Breaking Bad, who had a satisfying ending, they gave it a 9.5, and Game of Thrones came in at 9.4, which, to me, 9.4 is okay, because we do have 7 seasons of Masterpiece. Exactly. But it's like 9.4 on really thin ice.
Yeah,
like I could see
they docked it like a couple, you know.
Like you could tell that they did the math and it came up to 9.3, but they just rounded it out. Like,
yeah, they're like, let's not be too mean because, you know,
it was amazing. It was amazing.
Attachment
exactly, it was amazing regardless.
A great show overall. I still recommend anyone who hasn't watched it or wants to catch up with it. Despite all the spoilers, it's a genuinely entertaining, enthralling show. There's a lot that, yes, you're going to get invested in. You're inevitably, you're going to be a little disappointed, but it's the journey, not the destination.
Even considering how this season and this show ended, I would still 100% like
I want to
binge
give
this
it a
show.
rewatch.
And, yeah, I would re-binge and rewatch this entire show from
like
the
the
very
good
beginning.
old days.
Just because the entire production towards that journey is so good. It is just so good. And even though like the cinematography, the symbolism, everything, like some of the best things of this season was the cinematography.
Yeah, that's all they had. Like that whole shot with Drogon's wings behind Daenerys.
God,
Mwah,
absolutely
mwah,
beautiful.
mwah. Premium.
Beautiful.
Like,
Premium.
that's the only good thing to come out of the finale. It was
exactly
epic.
But the rest of the seasons have a special place in my heart because their symbolism is contextual in the story and not just in pretty pictures.
But you know,
I don't have to see like an entire foreshadowing, but we digress. We move on. We
digress, but yeah, that was a good productive conversation, and I hope people lasted all the way through because you know what, we came up with some good ass ideas.
I'm sorry if it was messy moving on. This is like what
we are messy people, but yeah,
we are messy people, and I'm a virgin towards this, you know.
Yeah.
So.
We took your podcast virginity today.
Yeah, my cherry has been popped.
So yeah, if you guys want to like hear more of Joseph, you know, as a special guest on the shows and if in any future talking about whatever comes up, honestly, you just let us know and we can make it work. We can kind of mix in more people. We're gonna have a couple more hosts to kind of sort through the series. This is keeping up with the Thrones finale as well because this is like a limited series podcast show, but we're gonna come up with more things and I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it and I enjoyed watching and I enjoyed having all my fellow co-hosts, including Joseph, including Jackson and Caleb on the show. We all had a really good time.
Amazing.
And yeah, where can they find you on Twitter if you wish to give yourself some clout, Joseph?
If you want to give me some clout, you can find me at Siguana.
Yeah, we'll link it below. But
You'll link it below.
Siguana. There you go. Yeah. I am at Captain Meléndez on Twitter, and be sure, as always, to subscribe to Full Circle Network. Follow us at Full Circle Cine on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter, and yeah. And be sure to follow us on FullCircleCinema.com for the latest 360 degrees of full news coverage. And that's about it. Subscribe and stay tuned for Oh no, I forgot to tell you. I already have the theme. I have the goats theme. Goats of Thrones at the beginning of every episode.
Amazing. I love it.
This is our last Goats of Thrones little episode here. But yeah.
I love this.
I love it too, trust me.
Okay,
it's a bit jarring, but you know, it works. So yeah. It's been a good one. Good night, everyone. Or whatever time it is that you're listening. And I hope you enjoyed and stay tuned for more shows. Bye.
Bye.